Greetings, kindred. We're going to continue in our study of the book of Ezekiel. We're in chapter 23. We're going to start with verse 22. If you haven't seen the previous studies, please go back and start from the beginning so you can catch up on all the things that we've discussed and you'll understand where we are presently. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. So let's get started. What is going to take to sober up our people from their spiritually drunken state of mind and awaken them to the fact that their traditions of men, taken from the religious practices of paganism and passed down from generation to generation, are not based on and are therefore contrary to the word of Yahweh? Are you polluted with them? Unless you have studied the word of Yahweh, you wouldn't know for sure, would you? How could you? When you follow those traditional religious doctrines and practices which appear so holy and feel so good, it is to our Father as if you had deserted him, which you have by not studying his word, and jumped into the bed of love with another. So why should anyone be surprised that our Father calls a person like that a whore and an adulteress? Why should anyone be surprised that he calls the whole biblically illiterate nation a bunch of whores? Where is the line-by-line teaching of our Father's word from the mainstream Christian churches? It is a legitimate question, is it not? We have been studying this 23rd chapter of the book of the Watchman of the End Times, Ezekiel, whose name means El is strong, or even El has made strong. It is only by eating the scroll, Yahweh's word, and digesting it in your bowels that you can be made strong. And it is a requirement that one eats the entire scroll before Yahweh will appoint him, or will appoint that person to the position of watchman or watchwoman unto the house of Israel. Ezekiel 3, verse 1. Moreover he said unto me, Son of man, eat that thou findest, eat this roll, and go speak unto the house of Israel. Verse 2. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. Verse 3. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then did I eat, and it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. Once appointed, the watchman is to sound the alarm, to give the house of Israel warning from him. They are not to give the warning with man's words, but in the manner of, Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, i.e., according to the scriptures, according to the scroll. Ezekiel 3, verse 17. Son of man, have I made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel? Therefore hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me. And what is the warning of that end time? By now, if you have studied with us from the beginning of Ezekiel, you should well know it is to warn them that the king of Babylon is soon coming to spiritually destroy the souls of those who do not have the seal of Yahweh in their foreheads. And in what condition do we now find these two sisters? They are now two whores. You see, they weren't interested in Yahweh's word. They wanted new ways to worship and praise, and they wanted to have religious symbols and things to hold and rub or count. And they wanted beautiful pageant church ceremonies like the Assyrians and the Egyptians. So they went after all those handsome studs and brought them into their beds. And you know what? Many of those same abominable things have been passed down to this generation, and you will find them polluting the churches. Ever hear of Astarte, Ishtar, the goddess of love or lust? How about her symbols of quick like a bunny's sex and her little fertility eggs? This is just for starters, as they say. Let's resume our study with verse 22, where Aholibah, representing Judah, is being dressed down by their father for her idolatry. Ezekiel 23, verse 22. Therefore, O Aholibah, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, behold, I will raise up thy lovers against thee, from whom thy mind is alienated, and I will bring them against thee on every side. Her lovers were the strong, handsome soldiers of the Babylonians and the Chaldeans. Verse 23. The Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, Pekod and Shoah and Koah, and all the Assyrians with them, all of them desirable young men, captains and rulers, great lords and renowned, all of them riding upon horses. Pekod means punishment. Shoah is rich, and Koah means cutting off. I'm going to stop here for a minute. We see a lot of that today, don't we? Cutting off. That to me sounds directly like some of the transgender stuff going on. Anyway, I digress. These lovers over whom she doted, verse 12, these handsome, strong, and desirable young men and captains will soon use that strength against her as the rod of her chastisement, no pun intended. And are they ever coming in full fury? Verse 24. And they shall come against thee with chariots, wagons, and wheels, and with an assembly of people, which shall set against thee buckler and shield and helmet round about. And I will set judgment before them, and they shall judge thee according to their judgments. This is prophecy for our day. This is the warning the Ezekiels of this generation are to proclaim. Yahweh is sending Satan as the king of Babylon, along with his locust army, Revelation 12, 7-9, to chastise his people for their whoredoms, for their idolatrous churchianity. In other words, they will be used as judgment against a rebellious generation. However, if you are one of Yahweh's elect, Satan will be the judgee, not the judger, for he and his crew have no power over us. Quite the contrary, Christ has given us all power over Satan and his worthless angels. Luke 10, verse 19, Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing by any means shall hurt you. Did we mention that it infuriates our Father when his children roll Ishtar eggs and keep an unsanctified, unholy, high day of churchianity, Christianity, named after an ancient pagan whore and substitute for Yahweh's Passover? They won't play the role of whore much longer. He's jealous and he's not happy. Ezekiel 23, verse 25. And I will set my jealousy against thee, and they shall deal furiously with thee. They shall take away thy nose and thine ears, and thy remnant shall fall by the sword. They shall take thy sons and thy daughters, and thy residue shall be devoured by the fire. Adulteresses were punished, so among the Egyptians and Chaldeans, Oriental beauties wore ornaments in their ears and nose. That's JF and B. Hey, the nose rings are making a big comeback these days. Verse 26. They shall also strip thee out of thy clothes and take away thy fair jewels. We read this before in chapter 16 concerning Jerusalem, remember? And he gives us a little refresher, Ezekiel 16, verse 39. And I will also give thee into their hand, and they shall throw down thine eminent place, and shall break down thy high places. They shall strip thee also of thy clothes, and shall take thy fair jewels, and leave thee naked and bare. Oh my. They shall take away her miniskirts and her charm bracelets and her pierced belly button thingamajigs. She shall be stripped buck naked, as they say. Ezekiel 23, verse 27. Thus will I make thy lewdness to cease from thee, and thy whoredom brought from the land of Egypt, so that thou shalt not lift up thine eyes unto them, nor remember Egypt any more. You won't flash your eyes at those handsome hunks any more, baby. Your father has given his word that you will soon cease and desist from playing churchianity, from playing the role of a harlot. 28. For thus saith Yahweh Elohim, Behold, I will deliver thee into the hand of them whom thou hatest, into the hand of them from whom my mind is alienated. 29. And they shall deal with thee hatefully, and shall take away all thy labor, and shall leave thee naked and bare, and the nakedness of thy whoredoms shall be discovered, both thy lewdness and thy whoredoms. Again, this is not some new revelation to us, because we read it before in chapter 16. The question we must keep asking over and over and over again is the one we asked at the beginning of today's study. What is going to take, let me try again. What is it going to take to get people to wake up? Ezekiel 16, verse 37. Behold, therefore, I will gather all thy lovers with whom thou hast taken pleasure, and all them that thou hast loved, with all them that thou hast hated. I will even gather them round about against thee, and will discover thy nakedness unto them, that they may see all thy nakedness. The answer is that most who claim to be Christian in this final generation must hit bottom before they become willing to sober up and open their eyes and ears. And so they will be stripped naked by the king of Babylon, which means they will stand totally embarrassed before Yahweh when he returns at the seventh trump, and they learn that they have been seduced by the instead of Messiah, who came at the sixth trump, and that they had been worshiping Satan as Yeshua Christ. How embarrassing indeed. This analogy of spiritual nakedness is a concept carried throughout Yahweh's word. Christ used it, Paul used it, and even John used it right through the last book of the Bible. Revelation 3, verse 18. I counsel thee to buy me of gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, and thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. Hey, if you don't want to study Yahweh's word and put some righteous clothes on, then prepare for the ultimate embarrassment when you are exposed as a naked whore. It doesn't get any more embarrassing than that. No wonder they will want the rocks and mountains to fall on them, saying, Hide me. Revelation 16, verse 50. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame. Get dressed up in the gospel armor, Ephesians 6, and keep it polished with the word every day. And now, for the umpteenth time, our Father is going to tell us why the king of Babylon is coming to chastise his people. Ezekiel 23, verse 30. I will do these things unto thee, because thou hast gone a-whoring after the heathen, and because thou art polluted with their idols. Because you're a whore, if you follow after the traditions of men and have not checked them out in his word to see if you are polluted, to see if you stink from the bull sins of idolatry. Verse 31, Thou hast walked in the way of thy sister, therefore I will give her cup unto thine hand. The house of Judah has followed right along in her sister Aholah's footsteps, So Judah will get the same cup of wrath as her sister. That makes sense to me. Verse 32. Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, Thou shalt drink of thy sister's cup, deep and large. Thou shalt be laughed to scorn, and had in derision, it containeth much. This cup is not good, right to the last drop. This cup is the same cup of wrath spoken of in Revelation 14, where those same Christians will be part of that great apostasy of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, i.e. the great falling away, where they worship the first supernatural being who appears claiming to be Yeshua. Revelation 14, verse 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, because they didn't know his word, they were easily deceived or seduced by Satan into believing he was Yeshua. Whoops. There go the clothes flying away in the rapture. Problem is, they were left behind standing stark naked in front of everyone. Note, yes, that's right. You can now tell all your friends that we now realize we just didn't get the whole story from Margaret MacDonald concerning her vision of the rapture in 1830. You see, the rapture theory is actually true, but it only applies to your clothes. Those who aren't aware of this new revelation and still believe that the seventh trump comes before the sixth trump will experience spiritual corporal punishment from their Father. Hopefully, this will shame them enough to wake them up so that they don't have to experience spiritual capital punishment at the end of the millennium. Verse 10. The same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. It is amazing how people struggle trying to understand the book of Revelation when it is basically just a graphic summary of everything that has been said before. It's just that they haven't eaten and digested the scroll. Ezekiel said it so simply. Ezekiel 23, verse 33. Thou shalt be filled with drunkenness and sorrow with the cup of astonishment and desolation, with the cup of thy sister Samaria. The desolation of the soul comes from the desolator, even the king of Babylon. He's coming soon. Will you stand dressed or be stripped naked? It's up to you. Okay, this ends this study, and we ended with verse 33, so next time we'll pick it up with verse 34 to the end. Okay, I hope you have a nice day, and as always, may Yahweh bless you richly.